So now let's go on to a conclusion. I'll give you another few moments to just read through the conclusion. As you can see, they've kept it very brief. So, this is probably 100 words, maybe slightly more. But essentially, your conclusion doesn't need to be very long. They've kept it with a subheading, which is good. I would recommend using a subheading too, but it is not, you don't have to if you don't want to. They have used the wording in the question, which is important. So the question is, are beliefs voluntary? They've used the word voluntary. They've used very strong language, which is persuasive, such as we rather than I. And they've used a strong linking phrase like furthermore. They've used further persuasive language, so saying substantiate the claim. And finally, point number 6, they go back to the original question, are beliefs voluntary? And they end on the clear point that beliefs are involuntary, according to this student. So I think that's a very strong conclusion. Now let's have a look at some further tips from the John Locke Essay Institute. So you can find all this information online, but I just wanted to pull out these key points. So I won't read through all of them because, as I said, this information is available online. But one thing to draw attention to, is it necessary to include footnotes or endnotes? You may not include footnotes in your essay, but you may include in-text citations or endnotes. You should give sources of any factual claims you make, and you should acknowledge any other authors on whom you rely. So don't include footnotes, which is the bits at the end of a page, but instead cite your sources like the student has done here. So they've done it within the essay. And then we'll also be doing a bibliography at the end, and I'll show you how we can do that right now after I share some general useful tips. So my most useful tips that I found from doing my own essay competition, in which I ranked second, and from mentoring students, is the following. 1, correct citations and referencing is really important, and it shows the examiner that you are competent in writing a psychological or a scientific essay. Understand the question before you start writing it. Make sure you sense check your essay. So get someone else to read it, whether that's a teacher, a friend, or maybe a parent, to double check for spelling mistakes and grammar errors, and just to make sure that the essay makes sense. Make sure you do a lot of research, but don't get overwhelmed and don't do too much research, because obviously there's a lot out there and you don't want to spend all your time researching and then not leave enough time to do the writing at the end. I would say it's not about how much you know or how many studies you've read, but it's more about how well it is that you're able to argue your case or your point. So it's about your communication style rather than just about how many studies you've read. Another useful tip is to watch videos on points that you might not understand so well. So, watch videos on more recent developments that might help you in this question. For example, on should 14-year-olds be able to make decisions about their bodies? Have a look at what's going on in the news to do with this, and you might want to watch a brief video explainer that sort of unpacks this. Read past good examples of essays, not just psychology essays. And I would read as many of these as you can in order to get a good sense of what makes a successful essay in terms of the writing structure, but also the writing style. Make sure you show off your critical thinking and analytical skills and your originality. And don't take studies at face value. Make sure you criticize them and critique them sufficiently.